Just let me know when you're ready.
Well,
We're good now, Stacy?
we are live.
All right. Hi, everyone. My name is CJ Valenzuela. I'm the Housing Program Manager with the Town of Apex, and I'm pleased to join you this afternoon. We'll be discussing our Town of Apex Affordable Housing Incentive Zoning Policy Overview. This is a session dedicated to developers. This is a developer informational session, and I will help also facilitate the meeting. And with that said, I'll go ahead and start the presentation.
Okay, presentation slide.
With us this afternoon from town staff, we have Diane Kinn, our Director of Planning and Community Development. We have Amanda Bunce, our current Planning Manager, Shannon Cox, our Long Range Planning Manager, and myself, CJ Valenzuela, who will be conducting the presentation and also helping out with meeting facilitation. I'm the Housing Program Manager. As most of you who are joining or those that were able to join, were sent out a survey, a rezoning applicant survey. Within that survey, I just want to let folks know that are watching, there are two distinctive links in that survey. One link is to join this Microsoft Teams format in which you can view the meeting directly. And also there's an opportunity for those joining through the Microsoft Teams format to submit questions via the chat feature at any time during the presentation. So we encourage you to submit the questions, and at the end of the presentation, we'll have some time for question and answers. So please do that through the chat feature. Also within the survey, there's a secondary link for those that may want to rewatch the video, or after this presentation is completed, it will be recorded and it will be posted on our town's YouTube channel, so on demand. So anyone could go back and watch the video or the presentation as well. So I just wanted to let you know, we encourage your participation. Use that chat feature in the Microsoft Teams meeting, and feel free to submit questions throughout the presentation. So thank you. Part one of this presentation is to go over the overview of the proposed policy. The Affordable Housing Incentive Zoning Policy has been identified as a near-term recommendation and a high priority for our town council within the adopted Affordable Housing Plan. Our Affordable Housing Plan was adopted on February 1st of 2021. And that plan outlines our vision, goals. There was a formal needs assessment performed in that plan, along with 14 recommendations and an action plan. And the Affordable Housing Incentive Zoning Policy has been identified as a near-term recommendation within that plan. As far as timeline, we went before our newly created Housing Advisory Board just on January 28th to hold an informational study session about the Affordable Housing Incentive Zoning Policy. After that meeting, staff received direction from our Housing Advisory Board to continue to reach out and receive input from both the development community and our housing advocate community. So as a result of that meeting, staff went back and drafted two surveys, one for the rezoning applicants or developers and one for the housing advocates. Both surveys were sent out and they are due March 6th. So we want to encourage everybody who may be watching who hasn't filled out the survey to take about 5 minutes of your time. We want to hear from you. In addition to that, we're holding an informational session for developers right now, live today. And next week, we'll be holding an informational session for our housing advocates. So we want to just continue to be transparent with the process. We're at the start of the process, and we want to hear your feedback as we're drafting this policy and moving it through the Housing Advisory Board. We are scheduled to have a Housing Advisory Board on March 16th to go over any feedback we received from the surveys and from the informational sessions. So that will be on March 16th. That will be virtual. So if anybody is interested in that, you can contact staff, myself in particular. We can also send you the information. As far as our proposed policy that we're in the process of drafting, there's different types of policies that are available for jurisdictions to consider. And I do want to reiterate, because I've been getting a lot of feedback from the development community on this, that and just to clarify to those watching, that our policy is not a mandatory policy. This is would occur through a rezoning condition, specifically proposed through the rezoning and plan unit development or PUD approval process. This is would not be a mandatory policy, for example, like the town of Chapel Hill. So that's one thing I wanted to clarify with the development community. The proposed design policy, what we're proposing to design here is a policy that sets forth clear goals, a process flow, definitions, applicability standards, and also, of course, the minimum policy recommendations. And once again, this is not a requirement, but this is a recommended policy. This will be a recommended policy. In addition to that, the way we designed this is to, once again, bring clarity. So there's two manuals that will be drafted. One is called a procedures manual that will detail the applicability standards and also the minimum policy recommendations for both the applicants, builders, developers, and also for town staff to make it clear on how to navigate through this process and what those recommendations are. There will be a second manual that will be drafted called the administration manual. So once units are generated through this policy, that will detail the monitoring, compliance, and administration standards for the affordable units. As far as proposed goals, there are 5 drafted goals for the policy. Goal number 1 is to provide a clear process and understanding of the town's minimum recommendations and applicability standards for both town staff and prospective applicants who may consider using this policy. Goal number 2 is to add residential affordable housing units or lots to the town's affordable housing portfolio. And goal number 3 is to generate residential affordable housing units that are reflective of the town's highest priority needs. Continuing on with the proposed goals, number 4, create mixed income communities in which residential affordable housing units are integrated within residential and mixed use market rate developments. And goal number 5 is to offset potential market rate development revenue loss for constructing newly created residential affordable housing units or lots through the use of zoning-based, non-financial, and financial incentives. Part 2 of this presentation will go over the proposed applicability overview. With this policy, we will now have proposed applicability standards. So this will be applicable within the Unified Development Ordinance zoning districts that allow both residential and mixed use development. This will also be applicable through the rezoning and plan unit development approval process. And the proposed also we drafted the proposed rezoning application process flow process, which details a clear path, which includes step 1, setting up a pre-application meeting with our technical review committee. Step 2 is to set up a specific housing meeting, or if we need more than one meeting with our housing staff. Step 3 will then be after the TRC meeting and after the meeting with the housing staff. Then the applicant can work on submitting what we call an affordable housing proposal, a marketing plan, and if proposing rental units, a property management plan to staff to review to get a clear understanding of what the proposal is in the project regarding the affordable housing component. With that said, that'll all help to carve out and draft an affordable housing zoning condition, which will then be taken before the planning board and ultimately town council for consideration. And then if approved by town council, then there will be a recorded restrictive covenant between the town and the applicant that will be recorded against the property or individual lots if it's an ownership development that will memorialize the terms and conditions of the affordable housing zoning condition. So there's now a clear process flow. The area median income limits that are being studied as a result of this draft policy include extremely low income, up to 30% of the area median income for rental, very low, which is up to 50% of the area median income as rental, And then there's 2 tiers of rental, your standard up to 60% AMI, which we're calling tier 1 for low income households for rental. And then a higher tier 2 to kind of hit that middle income on the rental side up to 70% AMI, which we're calling tier 2. And then we jump to some ownership prototypes where we're looking at up to 80% AMI for ownership. And then 2 other categories, median income up to 100% of AMI, and then workforce income up to 110% of AMI to help with those middle income households. The proposed applicability standards would include a minimum development unit threshold of developments that are 20 units or lots or greater. As far as the minimum affordable on-site percentage for units or lots would be a minimum of 5%. So if the project is 20 units or lots or greater, then the recommendation at this point would be to produce a minimum of 5% of affordable units or lots, with the goal being units, of course. So I do want to reinforce that. And as we just went through the prior slide, the rental area median income percentage categories that we're studying are between 30 to 70% of AMI. And then on the ownership categories that we're studying is between 80 and up to 110% of AMI. The minimum affordability period that we're considering for both ownership and rental units is going to be a minimum of 20 years. We are also considering, in order to get credit for the ownership units. So if you're a developer and you're looking at providing or considering to provide a minimum of 5% for ownership units, in order to get credit toward that 5%, the affordable initial sales price has to be at least 10% below the market rate sales price. So for example, if an applicant comes in and is going to do ownership subdivision and is going to provide some affordable ownership units, let's say they're going to provide a 2-bedroom condo, for example, and the market rate price of the 2-bedroom condo is $400,000 and the affordable initial sales price is $380,000. That's too close to the market rate price. That's only 5% difference. So it would need to be at least 10%. So if the developer or the applicant was going to propose a 2-bedroom condo at $400,000 for their market rate product, then the affordable price would need to be at least $360 or lower, at least a 10% differential in that. But that is only applicable when applicants come in and they're going to construct and build those units in-house themselves. Now, if the applicant has an option, of course, to work with someone like Habitat for Humanity or a community land trust, and if they're proposing to satisfy, let's say, their minimum of 5% through a partnership or an agreement with Habitat or a community land trust, for example, then that 10% differential doesn't apply because Habitat's already going to build those, or a community land trust at, like, for example, 80% AMI. So then that 10% rule goes out the door. Just want to distinguish that. Any proposal that differs from the minimum policy recommendations is considered an alternative proposal. So if an applicant comes back and says, hey, we can do 7% instead of 5%, or we can do 4% instead of 5%, for example, or we can give you some deeper affordability every development's going to be case by case. That would be considered an alternative proposal. The basic definition of affordable housing that I want to share with those watching, and this is the HUD definition that's accepted across industry standards, is affordable housing means housing on which the occupant is paying no more than 30% of gross monthly household income for housing costs, including utilities. So I do want to make sure I reinforce including utilities, because sometimes that gets forgotten and kind of just thrown out the door. But when we're talking about calculating affordable ownership sales prices and also the affordable maximum rents, we are factoring in utilities as well in that housing cost. So staff has plugged in some assumptions and showing you some estimated maximum sales prices. And this is what we wanted to show the development community, because this is essentially what you'll be plugging in your pro forma, to see if certain numbers can work or not. So When we take a look at this is a 2-bedroom prototype, and it doesn't matter condo, townhome, or single family. We're going by bedroom size. So if it's just a 2-bedroom ownership unit that is being provided as affordable housing to the 80% area median income category, which is low income, then the maximum affordable initial sales price for that unit could be $284,600. And if it's a 2-bedroom unit being made available to the median income category, then you're looking at $362,500. And if you're looking at that 2-bedroom workforce income unit, then you're looking at $401,600. These are calculated at a household that's spending no more than 30% of their combined gross household income on housing, including different factors, a percentage for down payment, a certain interest rate. So we ran different assumptions. These are our assumptions. So we'll have to calculate specific sales prices to the development, of course, if there's a specific HOA or property assessment, but we can do that pretty easily. But this is just a general affordable initial sales price based on certain assumptions, just to show developers what they can put, or at least have a sense of how much they can sell these units for. Now, when you're looking at the 3-bedroom prototype, once again, doesn't matter condo, townhome, as long as it's the ownership product based on bedroom size, then these are the maximum initial affordable sales prices in the right-hand column, just like the last slide, but this is for a 3-bedroom. So you're looking at anywhere from $319,200 all the way up to $449,200, for example, depending on which income band that the applicant is proposing to offer for affordable housing. And the reason why we're studying those 100 and 110% AMIs is because we're looking at the middle income housing as well. We really want to broaden that spectrum. Staff has done a income analysis of what different jobs make and produce on average salary in the town. So we want to make sure that we try to have as much product as available to service the needs of the town of Apex. So when you're looking at a 4-bedroom product for initial sales prices, you're looking at anywhere from $346,900 all the way up to $487,200. So, and the other reason why is because you may have a development, not all developments look alike. You might have a higher density development. Let's say if it's a rental project that's going to do studios and higher density units, so it may make sense to try to produce a certain percentage of AMI there. Then you might have a developer saying, hey, we're just doing single family detached housing, and our prices are starting at X, so it may make sense to have a different AMI percentage in that development and to take a look at different prototypes and different developments. So this is trying to give the applicants a wide range of AMI percentages, because there's going to be a wide range of different prototypes, different price levels, different price points, so that thus trying to make it more flexible. When you flip the coin and you take a look at affordable rents, and you take a look at those different income bands that we talked about, all the way from 30% all the way to 70%, you can see what the estimated maximum monthly affordable rent limits are based on those AMI percentages. So an extremely low household, a 1-bedroom rental unit, the maximum rent would be $538, which would need to include utilities if there's any tenant paid utilities, of course. Up to 70%, you can just take a look at that. I'll just leave that slide up for a second. And then if you're at the 70% tier 2 low income, the maximum rent would be $1,256. The reason why we studied everything from 30% all the way up to 100% AMI on the rental side. And the reason why you're not seeing 80% right now being recommended, because the 80% AMI on the rental side is really close, is too close to the market rate rents. So that's why you see the cutoff at 70% AMI, because the goal is to produce below market rate housing or below rents if it's on the rental side. So this is a 2-bedroom prototype. You can see the range of rents depending on the affordable rents based on the AMI percentage. So if you're looking at a 50% very low product, you're at 1,077 on a 2-bedroom unit. And once again, going all the way up to 70%, you're at 1,508. And we also did a market rate rent analysis to see what are the average market rate rents based on unit or bedroom size. So you can see right now in Apex, the average market rate rent is $1,744. So, And then last but not least, one more prototype. This is a 3-bedroom rental affordable unit ranging from anywhere from $746 a month all the way up to $1,742 a month. So this just shows you and shows the developers what you would need to kind of plug in that pro forma, when we talk about maximum rents. So part 3 of this presentation includes the proposed policy incentives. And I think this is also another important part that we want to take some time to go through. So what the town right now is proposing is 10 incentives. And incentive number 1 is a higher density zoning district. And this would simply allow more housing types and density than otherwise indicated in the 2045 land use map. This is pretty straightforward. Density bonus, staff, when we first went to the Housing Advisory Board, we were still working on this, and we are still working on it today, but we are pleased to be able to offer a density bonus in the high density multifamily conditional zoning district. So this would allow increases the allowed density above what the zoning district permits. That's what a density bonus does. And then this is only applicable to the high density multifamily conditional zoning district, which is currently limited to just 14 units per acre. So if an applicant was to request a density bonus in this zoning district, they could request something obviously greater than 14 units per acre. And we're still trying to come up with the metrics at this point, but we're at least pleased to offer this. We didn't even have this a couple weeks ago, so we added this in. So incentive number 3 is pretty straightforward. This is to increase the maximum building height. These are all zoning based conditions right now that we're looking at, these first 3 as well. This is an adjustment to the development standard to increase allowable building height in any conditional zoning district without the need to rezone to a planned unit development conditional zoning district. So we really want to reinforce that too. Applicants sometimes don't always propose to go all the way to a PUD. So we wanted to reinforce that as well. So this would be available without having to go all the way to a PUD. The next 3 incentives number 4, 5, and 6 are also zoning based incentives. This is to reduce building setbacks, number 4, and that's an adjustment to the development standard to simply reduce building setbacks, once again, in any conditional zoning district without the need to rezone to a PUD. Conditional zoning district. And then the same thing with number 5 on reduced lot widths. That's essentially the same, to adjustment to the development standard to reduce required lot widths in any conditional zoning district without the need to rezone to a PUD zoning, a conditional zoning district. So number 6 is the resource conservation area reduction. And this is an adjustment to the required RCA in any conditional zoning district. Once again, without the need to rezone to a PUD, CZ, or a planned unit development conditional zoning district, the maximum reduction that can be requested is 10% for this particular incentive. And then incentive number 7 is also a zoning based incentive that's for parking reductions, and a development must be in a pedestrian oriented mixed use area and or within a quarter mile of an existing or planned bus stop. And the reduction, once again, can be requested in any conditional zoning district without the need to rezone to a planned unit development conditional zoning district. Incentive number 8, that's reduced sidewalk requirements. This is another zoning based incentive, and this is under certain conditions. We may waive the requirement to construct sidewalks on both sides of residential streets. Sidewalks must be provided, though, on at least one side of all residential streets. And then number 9 is expedited processing. This is considered a non-financial incentive since there's no monetary or loan or grant being provided. And so with this one here, this would provide expedited review and processing of rezoning, site plan, and master subdivision plan applications where at least 50% of the residential units or lots are set aside for affordable housing. So that one does have a specific threshold of at least 50%. And then incentive number 10, which are loans, grants, and fee reimbursements. This is a true financial incentive where we may reimburse or provide a grant for certain development fees or may provide a loan or grant to create a greater percentage of affordable units or lots, increase the length of the affordability period, or provide deeper affordability. That's to those lower AMI percentage income groups that we showed you on that list in that range of income bands. However, to qualify for this incentive, at least 20% of the residential units must be set aside as affordable units to low income households, up to 60% of the AMI. And that really comes, those are really subject to North Carolina general statutes. So the town wants to make sure that they're, in line with the law. And the second caveat to that is also this incentive is also subject to town funding availability as well. So. And that concludes staff's presentation, and hopefully that provided a overview of the applicability standards, the proposed incentives that the town is offering, as well as some of the goals and some of the other information and background on the timeline and process that where we're at, what we've done, and where we're heading. So with that said, I will go ahead and it looks like and once again, I just want to encourage those attendees out there to submit your questions through the Microsoft Teams platform. Right now, I do have a question that has been submitted. So let me go ahead and read it, and then I will share it, and then I will attempt to answer it. The question is, why is the marketing plan a responsibility of the applicant? And is the applicant responsible for finding and qualifying buyers or renters? And I don't think anyone in the development community knows how to do that, nor should that be their responsibility. The town should take all the responsibility for that element. So to answer that question is the town is going to work with the applicant on the marketing plan. And yes, the town will assist with marketing the opportunity for the affordable units within that development. But however, it will also be the developer's responsibility to take the lead on the marketing of those units, because it'll be the developer that's agreeing to, for example, to provide those units through a rezoning condition, if that's the case. But the town will definitely be assisting. I do want to let you know that when we talk about the affordable housing proposal and the marketing plan and the property management plan, think of those more as checklist, very short. These are not going to be like, a marketing plan that's 30 pages or 20 pages. This is just an outline of what measures are going to be taken. For example, is a developer going to run a newspaper ad? Are they going to run an ad, and are we going to promote through the town's utility bill insert marketing, for example? So every Apex resident gets notified that pays their electricity bill to Apex. They're going to be ad in Suburban Living magazine. In other words, how are we going to notify our residents here within the town of Apex of an opportunity to apply for the affordable housing, whether it be an interest list, a waiting list, or a formal application? So yes, the town will definitely assist, will help navigate the applicant through that process. And this is something that we do have experience with in doing, and that's why we're going to have a formal plan in place and help to get interest. So then if it's an ownership subdivision, for example, once those units are prior to those units being ready to be offered and marketed to the public, then there already be a plan on how that's going to happen. So yes, that's why that is there, as well as the affordable housing proposal and also the property management plan, if the applicant is proposing affordable rental units in the project. So far that seems to be the only question that we received, and I'll give a little bit of time if there's, and I will share with my screen as well. So if anybody's watching or anybody is not watching live but also goes back and sees the recording, I do want to let the public know, or anybody else watching, that you can submit questions or comments to myself. There's my email on the screen. So, if someone wasn't able to join today on the call, there's another way that you can reach staff for any questions or comments. Feel free. We want to hear from you. That's the goal. This is why we're doing this process, to give as many opportunities as possible to hear feedback from both the development community and the housing advocates, and also the general public as well. So, and I don't see any additional questions in the Q&A at this time. Okay, so here we go. Looks like we received another one. Is this a requirement for any PUD or just an option? And let me go ahead and publish this here. This is not a mandatory policy. This policy is once again a recommendation that will ultimately be adopted by town council. So to answer your question, there will not be a requirement of anything, as in slide, I think the second or third slide I showed. But this will be ultimately a town council recommendation. So once there's empirical data that's actually been adopted by town council, wherever we land, what I'm showing you and presenting you today is just what we're studying and what we're considering, but those numbers can change. The 5%, it can change to 10% or whatever, or the AMI percentages can change, but whatever we're showing you is not mandatory. It's not a requirement. So hopefully that helps clarify. And I don't see any more. I'm going to give you guys a couple more minutes because that's what we set this meeting up for, and to see if there's any additional questions during this live session. And I'll still give a few more minutes here. I'll probably give a couple more minutes. And once again, I'm sharing my screen there just in case anybody has any questions, or there might be some folks, excuse me, watching this afternoon that are just listening and may have some questions that they're writing down or I'm going to submit later. So just once again, feel free to send those to me. And I'll be more than happy. And if I can't answer them personally, I'll make sure I route those and get our staff to help with those if there's anything beyond my scope. So. All right. Well, with that said, I don't see, it's been since 4 o'clock when I got my last question. It's been about 3 minutes. So in due diligence, I'll wait till 4:05, at least give an additional 5-minute window. I don't think hopefully that'll be enough time if someone's going to submit a last question. Okay, well, doesn't appear we're getting any more questions. So you have my contact information and feel free. And if I encourage anyone out there who's received the survey who has not had a chance to fill it out or submit it, please do so. That once again, the deadline to submit the survey is March 6th of 2022. So we look forward to hearing from you and looking forward to hearing from you. There will be more opportunities as we move this through our housing advisory board and then ultimately to town council. So with that said, I appreciate everyone that was able to join the session today. And once again, my name is CJ Valenzuela. I'm the housing program manager, and this will conclude our informational session this afternoon. Thank you.